sentenced to death, the officer's only hope was his loyal police, K9 dog. As Officer Mike Grayson's fate was sealed of a crime he didn't commit. His only lifeline was a police K9 dog who could smell the truth in a world drowning in lies. Time was running out for him to save his master. The prison bars closed behind him. Officer Mike Grayson stood still. His hands were tight fists. His uniform was gone. His badge, his sign of justice, was taken away. Now, he wore an orange prison suit. He was called a criminal. The courtroom was in his mind. The judge spoke. His voice was cold. The jury gave their decision. Guilty. One word had destroyed everything. For 10 years, Mike had been a good officer. He saved lives. He stopped crime. He trained the best police dogs in the city. But now, none of that mattered. His boss, Captain Harris, was dead. The evidence pointed to Mike. His fingerprints were on a gun. A video showed a man his size walking away. People believed he had a reason. Anger because he lost a promotion. But it was not true. That night, Mike was at home. He was playing fetch with his K9 partner, Thor. He was not at the crime scene. But now, he was locked up, waiting to die for a crime he did not do. The real killer? He was in the courtroom, watching with a smile. Chief Daniel Reeves made sure the case ended quickly. He had power. He had secrets. His hands were dirty. Mike had seen something bad. Police officers protecting drug dealers. Before he could tell anyone, Harris was dead. The evidence was placed on Mike. No one asked questions. No one looked deeper. No one stood against Reeves. But not everyone believed the lie. "Mike, I won't stop," Ray Carter said in the prison's visitor room. He was Mike's old partner. They worked together before Ray moved to another team. His eyes were full of anger. "This case is too perfect. It was planned." Mike sighed. He rubbed his face. "Ray, it's over." "No, it's not." Ray leaned close and whispered. "Thor knows something. He is not the same since you were taken away. He growls when Reeves and the others come near him. That dog can smell lies." Mike's heart hurt. Thor was more than a partner. He was family. The thought of him, alone and confused, made Mike feel worse. They tried to give him a new handler, but he won't listen, Ray said. He won't follow commands. He walks in his cage all night. He is waiting for you. Mike swallowed hard. "I need to see him, Ray. One last time." Ray's face was serious. "I'll make it happen." Thor sat in his cage at the K9 unit. His golden fur stood up. His ears moved every time someone walked by. He growled when the wrong people came close. They tried to replace Mike. Other officers called his name. They tried to leash him, but Thor did not move. His loyalty was for one man only. He had seen the bad man. He smelled their fear. He felt their guilt. He did not understand human words, but he understood their lies. Every night, he lay down. He put his nose against the cold metal bars. He closed his eyes and waited. He did not know why Mike was not coming back, but something was wrong. The air smelled of sadness. The voices were quiet. Something was missing, and Thor would not stop until he found it. Days passed. Inside the cold prison, Mike lay on his hard bed. He stared at the ceiling. His execution date was set. He heard the whispers of other prisoners. Time fell heavy on his shoulders. His hands shook, but not because he was afraid, because he was angry. He spent his life catching criminals. Now, he was dying as one. A knock on his cell door made him sit up. A guard stood there. His arms were crossed. He looked at Mike with sad eyes. "You have a request?" the guard asked. Mike looked at him. He spoke in a steady voice. "I want to see my dog, just one time before I die." The guard's face softened. Even a man about to die was allowed a last wish. "I'll see what I can do," he said. The heavy prison door opened with a loud creak. The sound echoed in the dark hallway. Two guards stepped inside. Their boots made deep thuds on the hard floor. Mike sat on his bed. His hands rested on his knees. His heart was beating fast. He had been waiting for this moment. One guard spoke. 5 minutes. No trouble. Mike nodded. His face was calm, but inside, his heart was racing. Then, through the open door, Thor appeared. The big dog was tense. His golden fur stood up. His ears were high. His sharp eyes looked around the room. Then he saw Mike. Something changed. His body relaxed. His tail shook. A low whine came from his throat. Mike held his breath. He had not touched his dog for months. He had dreamed of this moment. "Come here, boy," he whispered. Thor jumped forward, pulling the leash. The guard holding it almost lost his grip. The dog rushed to Mike. For the first time since his arrest, Mike smiled. He got down on his knees and hugged Thor tight. The dog licked his face. His breaths were fast and uneven, like he was afraid Mike would go away again. "It's okay, buddy," Mike whispered. "I missed you too." The guard stood near the door. They watched. They thought this was just a goodbye. A man waiting to die, seeing his dog one last time. They did not know the truth. Mike held Thor close. He pressed his forehead against the dog's. Then he whispered something. A secret command. A special phrase. It meant one thing. Run. Thor's body became still. His ears twitched. His eyes locked on Mike's. He waited for a sign. Mike gave a small nod. Thor stepped back. His chest moved fast. The guards did not notice. But Mike did. The moment was near. The handler pulled the leash. "Time's up." Mike let out a slow breath. He put his hand on Thor's head one last time. "Go," he whispered. The handler turned to take the dog away. Thor growled. It was sudden, loud, different from before. Then he moved. With a strong pull, Thor ripped the leash from the handler's hands. The officer fell back in surprise. Thor spun and ran toward the open door. The guard shouted, "Stop him." Chaos broke out. Thor ran fast. His paws hit the floor hard. The guards tried to grab him, but he was too quick. He dodged them, twisting and jumping through the gaps. The prison was big and confusing, but Thor remembered. He had been here before. He knew the way out. Alarms rang. Officers spoke into radios. "A dog has escaped. Close the gates." Thor reached the end of the hallway. A big metal door slammed shut in front of him. He stopped, his nails scratching the floor. The guards ran closer. But Thor was not trapped. He turned fast and jumped onto a stack of crates. He pushed off with his strong legs. He flew through the air and crashed into the emergency exit door. The door swung open. Now he was outside. Cool air hit his face as he landed. The night sky stretched over him, dark and wide. His paws touched the ground for only a second before he ran again. More shouting. More officers chasing him. But Thor did not stop. He ran through empty streets. He dodged cars. He slipped through alleys. He had a mission. He did not look back. Ray Carter sat in his car near the prison. He was thinking about how to help Mike when he saw something. A fast movement. A flash of golden fur. "Thor." Ray sat up straight. His heart pounded. The dog was running like his life depended on it. Ray looked at the prison. The lights flashed wildly. Something had happened. Ray's instincts kicked in. He started the car. He watched Thor move through the streets. The dog was low, fast and focused. Ray gripped the wheel. Thor was not just running. He was going somewhere. And Ray needed to know why. Thor ran through the dark streets. His body was low. His breath was heavy. His paws hit the ground hard. He did not stop. He did not slow down. He had a mission. Behind him, Ray Carter drove fast. He tried to keep up. He did not know where Thor was going, but he trusted the dog. Thor was not running for no reason. He had a purpose. The city lights flashed as Thor made quick turns. He ran through narrow alleys. He slipped past parked cars. Ray held the wheel tight. Something was not right. This was not just an escape. The dog was leading him somewhere. Thor ran down an old, empty street. Ray's heart beat faster. He turned the car sharply. The tires screeched on the road. Then he saw Thor stop. The dog stood in front of a rusty metal door. An old storage unit. Ray parked and got out of the car. Thor paced back and forth. He pushed his nose against the door. He let out a deep, worried whine. Ray felt a tight knot in his stomach. "This is it," he whispered. He pushed the door. It was locked. Thor growled. He scratched at the bottom of the door. He wanted to get inside. Ray stepped back. He kicked the door hard. Once. Twice. The lock broke. The door swung open. Dust filled the air. Old papers and boxes were stacked inside. Ray took out his flashlight. He moved the light across the room. Then he saw it. A small metal box. It was under an old police jacket. Thor ran to it. He pushed it with his nose. Ray knelt down. He opened the box. Inside was a flash drive and a blood-stained glove. Ray's breath caught. His hands shook as he picked up the glove. He knew this glove. It was the missing evidence from the crime scene. the one that had disappeared, the glove of the real killer. Ray's heart pounded. He grabbed the flash drive. He took out his laptop. His fingers trembled as he plugged it in. A video appeared on the screen. The video was from a security camera. It showed a parking lot near the police station. The timestamp was from the night of the murder. Ray leaned closer. A shadow moved on the screen. A man stepped into the light. Ray's stomach dropped. Chief Daniel Reeves. The video showed everything. Reeves walked toward Captain Harris. A quick, sharp movement. The flash of a knife. Harris falling to the ground. Ray felt sick. Mike had told the truth. He was framed. And now, Ray had proof. Phil let out a soft whine. He could feel how serious this moment was. Ray's mind raced. Mike's execution was very soon. There was no time. Ray grabbed the flash drive. He grabbed the glove. He shoved them into his pocket. "We need to go," he said. Thor barked once. Ray ran back to his car. Thor followed. He threw the evidence onto the seat. Then, he hit the gas and sped away. The city rushed past him, but his mind was clear. He had to stop the execution. Ray's phone rang. He picked it up without looking. "Carter," a low voice said. It was Reeves. Ray gripped the wheel tight. "Turn around," Reeves said. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Go home, Carter. This is not your fight." Ray's jaw tightened. "You framed an innocent man." Silence. Then a quiet laugh. "You can't prove anything," Reeves said. "Even if you try, you won't make it in time." Ray's chest burned with anger. "I'm done listening to you," he snapped. He ended the call. He pressed harder on the gas. Then he saw it. A police roadblock. They were trying to stop him. Ray held the wheel tighter. He had no choice. He turned onto a side street. He sped toward the courthouse instead. Mike had only minutes left. Thor let out a sharp bark. He wanted Ray to go faster. Ray's heart pounded. There was still time, but just barely. And he would not let his friend die for a crime he did not commit. The cold metal cuffs were tied on Mike's wrists. The guards led him down the long, quiet hallway. His steps were steady. His heart was calm. He was ready for what was coming. The big doors of the execution room were ahead. The bright lights inside made long shadows on the floor. Time felt slow, like everything was moving through thick air. A guard spoke softly. "Any last words?" Mike shook his head. He was not afraid. He had lived with honor. He had loved his job. He had loved his dog. He had protected people. If this was the end, he would not fight it. But deep inside, in his heart, he still had hope. Thor had understood his command. Ray had followed him. And if there was still justice in the world, the truth would come in time. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. The room was silent. Only the soft beeping of a heart monitor filled the air. Mike closed his eyes. He whispered, "Good boy." Thor was out there. He would not fail him. Across the city, Ray Carter's car stopped fast in front of the prison gates. Tires screeched. He jumped out, holding the flash drive in one hand and the bloody glove in the other. Thor leaped from the car. He ran ahead. He knew every second was important. Guards at the entrance moved forward. "Stop right there," one of them shouted. "I have proof," Ray yelled. "Mike Grayson is innocent. You need to let me through." The warden, an older man with tired eyes, stepped outside. His face was hard, but something in Ray's voice made him pause. "This better be good," the warden said. Ray pushed the flash drive into his hand. "Play it. Right now." The warden looked at Ray's face. He nodded. They ran inside. The security room was quiet. The warden put the flash drive into the computer. A video played. The room fell silent. On the screen, Chief Daniel Reeves walked in the parking lot. He moved through the shadows. A knife flashed in his hand. Captain Harris fell. Then, the part no one had seen before. The part that had been hidden. Reeves wiped the knife. He took out gloves. He pressed Mike's fingerprints onto the gun. Then, he walked away. The truth had been there all along. The warden's face turned pale. Ray slammed his hand on the desk. "Call the governor. Now!" Inside the execution room, a voice suddenly came over the prison radio. "Stop the execution. Stop the execution." The guards froze. Mike opened his eyes. "Take him back to his cell," the warden's voice said. The cuffs on Mike's wrists loosened. He let out a deep breath. He had not even known he was holding it. It was over. The guards led him back down the long hallway. The heavy weight on his chest was gone. The fear of death was gone. The guards whispered to each other. Their eyes were wide with shock. When Mike reached his cell, the truth had spread. The real killer had been arrested. The case was open again. For the first time in months, people saw the truth. Mike was innocent. The sun was rising when Ray walked through the prison doors. Thor walked beside him. Mike stood behind the bars. His hands gripped the metal. Then, he saw Thor. His face softened. The guard opened the cell door. Thor ran inside. Mike dropped to his knees. Thor crashed into him. The big dog trembled with excitement. Thor licked his face. He whined. He pressed his head against Mike's chest. Mike felt tears in his eyes. He let them fall. He wrapped his arms around Thor. He held him tight. He buried his face in the soft fur and whispered, "Good boy. You saved my life."